Algebra 2, we're in lesson 5.10. We're going to solve quadratic equations, but we're going to have to pay especially close attention to the directions. Take a look very quickly at number 1. You have your equation, of course, but look right here. It says round your answers or answer or answers to the nearest hundredth. The hundredth is going to be 2 decimal places. Okay, we're going to go to 2 decimal place accuracy. So what we're going to do is not have radicals in our final answer here. We're actually going to wind up instead with decimal answers. So get x squared alone. I'm going to minus a 14 from both sides. And of course, we can definitely make use of our calculator here and go 102 minus 14. And 102 minus your 14, you can quickly see is going to be 88, right? So at this point, we'll have 2x squared is equal to 88. Again, my goal is to solve for x squared first, to get that alone. So what we'll do is divide both sides by 2, and then we'll have x squared is equal to 44. Once you have a squared term isolated, then you can take your square roots. Please do remember there are 2 of them. There is a plus and a minus. So what we can do very quickly is just type in a square root. I'll go second radical and go square root of 44. And that's 6.63. You look to the right, and of course that is not big enough to bump it up. You have to have a 5 or larger when you look to the right of your designated stopping point, your 2 decimal places. So it's plus or minus 6.63. In Alex, of course, we'd write that as 6.63 comma negative 6.63. As we continue on to example 2, however, I think you're going to notice that right now, what's super different is that you don't just have a variable raised to the second power. You've got y plus 4 all raised to the second power. You need to get that alone, and you're going to add a 32 to both sides to do that. By the way, our directions, we should always be paying especially close attention to our directions here. You can see once again, we're going to 2 decimal place accuracy. So, we are going to take our square roots. We'll get a plus or a minus. And, at this point, we could just type in the square root of 32. Notice I'm not breaking this radical down. I'm just immediately letting the calculator help us out. Now at this point, 5.656. If you look to the nearest hundredth, it's 5.65, but to the right is a 6. This 5 has to get bumped up by 1. So we have 5.66 and a negative 5.66. So we're not quite done. You see, what's happening is there is the positive 5.66 and there's this negative 5.66. You can see it's a little bit trickier on this left-hand side. We're going to have to do some more work. I'm going to minus a 4 from both sides here, and we'll have y is equal to a 1.66. When I minus a 4 over here, of course, we could get help from a calculator if you need it, but this should be negative 9.66. And here are your 2 answers rounded to the nearest hundredth. As we move on to the next directions, please note you're just told to simplify here. And guys, if you're simplifying, you are not going to answer to the nearest hundredth. You're actually going to get radicals and then reduce your radicals as much as possible. So what we'll do here, again, is solve for our squared term. Get this w plus 5 squared by itself. So I'm going to subtract a 9 to do that. And then I'm going to take my square roots, but there will be a plus minus. Now, it's here, however, that I think you're going to see that we're in some trouble. Yeah, in general, we're going to have to simplify radicals, but negatives cannot be inside of them. The square root of -9, it's a non-real answer. So this is no good. What we can do at this point is just say there are no real solutions. And that, of course, will be one of the options that you can select in ALEKS. Bottom line is this: whether you're simplifying or answering to the nearest hundredth, if you have a problem where you need to take the square root of something negative, that's not going to work out, guys. You're going to get no real solution situation. Okay, so there's no solving this. As we take a look at our last problem, our ultimate goal is to get this squared term alone. So what you have to do is add a 6. Always get rid of the addition or the subtraction. Then we'll have 16. And you can see again, if you're trying to solve for this squared term, like in the past we'd solve for x squared, now we're solving for x minus 3 squared. If there was a 2 out in front, we'd divide by 2, and look at that. We're left with x minus 3 quantity squared is equal to 8. And it's at this point where you would take your plus minus square roots. Here we will get an answer. Radical 8 can, in fact, be simplified. So if we did a quick division tree, we could say 8 divided by 2 is 4, divide by 2 again. We could see very quickly that this radical 8 is really 2 times 2 times 2. We'd have a plus minus out in front here. And remember how we break down radicals? We look for 2 of the same thing. And whenever we can circle 2 of the same thing, we'll take one of those items out, and then we kill the circle. We ignore the circle from that point on. There's a third 2 that we didn't circle. That's still inside of your radical. So we're not quite done. But I guess what I want to show you is this, again, would lead to 2 distinct kind of problems here. You could have x minus 3 equals 2 root 2, or you could have x minus 3 equals negative 2 root 2. In either case, you would add a 3. And I'll tell you what, generally we're going to keep our number out in front of the radical. You could certainly say 2 root 2 plus 3, but this 2 root 2 is a positive here, so we could say 3 plus 2 root 2. Here, if we cancel, we'd have 3 minus a 2 root 2. So here are your 2 answers that you're going to finish up with.